Oh, what is the excuse, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GXHockeyCast. We're on episode 82. Trent Frederick, not a lot of 82s out there, y'all, of my little hockey show where once a week I go through all of the major news and what's happenings in the NHL, mainly focusing in on the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames because that's my favorite teams, but I'll be talking about all 32 teams on this podcast. So what's on tap for today? Well, there's been quite a bit. So William Nylander, he signs his big contract. We'll break that whole situation down. The Winnipeg Jets are the best team in the NHL, ? We'll be discussing them this week. Edmonton Oilers continue their surge back up the leaderboards. We got suspensions. We got records being broken. Let's just dive into this thing, and I think we need to start with William Nylander, who signs his massive 8-year extension, $11.5 million per season. And yeah, I mean, general feelings coming out of this contract extension is that it's too much money, and I agree. It's too much. It's way too much. Well, I wouldn't say way too much, but it's definitely too much money for the Leafs to be spending on 4 players. We've discussed this, so it's really interesting that the Leafs have decided to double down on the whole, we're going to spend a whole bunch of money on these superstars, and they're going to win us a Stanley Cup. Now, has that worked so far? Absolutely not. It has failed fairly miserably so far. Only a second-round appearance, and that second round was a pretty wet fart of an appearance, so they're doubling down. They're going to give a whole bunch of money. It's way more money than I expected coming into this season. At the beginning of this year, we were all flipping out at the idea of paying this guy $9.5, $10 million, and now here we are, $11.5 million, and honestly, not a whole lot that Treliving could do. William Nylander held all the leverage in this contract negotiation. It's rather they let him walk for free, which, I mean, the Leafs, I can't remember the Leafs letting someone of William Nylander's caliber walk for free. There's been a ton of other guys from the previous generation, like the Bozaks, the JVRs, Jake Gardners, those kind of guys that had value, didn't trade them away, kept them, and then just let them lose them for absolutely nothing. So definitely wouldn't have wanted that to go down with William Nylander, and Willie could have probably gotten around that much money, probably a little bit more in the free agency market, depends which team would go after him, but it would have been around what he was going to make with the Leafs. But the Leafs have the benefit of a couple things, actually. They have the benefit of being able to give him that 8th year, which no other team was going to be able to do unless the Leafs traded him mid-season, which would be, I would imagine, fairly disastrous to take William Nylander off this team right now. And the other thing that the Leafs can do that not a lot of other teams can do is front load his contract with a fuckload of bonuses at the beginning of the year. So basically what the Leafs have done, they are on July 1st, whenever the day comes, they're just going to hand over like 90% of William Nylander's contract for that year on day one. So they do this with pretty much all their stars, like John Tavares, Marner, Matthews. They all get huge day one signing bonuses, and then the rest of the year they're only getting paid like a few $100,000, which is a lot of money in our books, but in terms of NHL, it's not very much. So that's cool. That is one of the small benefits that Toronto as an organization can have over a lot of other organizations, like Columbus, for example, could not do something like this, to hand over $10 million day one to Johnny Gaudreau and then just have him fucking play out the rest of the year. They need to kind of spread the money out a little bit, but Toronto, being the powerhouse organization that they are with MLSE and everything, they have a lot of money, so they can easily do this, no problem. I think on day one now, they said something like they're handing out like $40 million in signing bonuses to the Big Four or Big Five, whatever you want to call them. It's basically a Big Five now because you got virtually everybody locked in. I know that Tavares and Marner aren't locked in. We'll talk about them in a moment. But you got Nylander, Matthews, Morgan Riley, Marner, and Tavares. I'd say that's your big five. Some people would argue take out Tavares. Some people may argue take out Morgan Riley. But I feel it's almost like the new Muskoka 5, if anyone remembers that. That was a little bit before my time, but it was like Brian McCabe. It was a bunch of guys that signed like 5x5 deals back in the early salary cap, which was just devastating to the team. But regardless, almost in a similar situation here. What can we call them? If we can add in one guy, we can call them the Toronto 6. And so you can have the, I don't know, throw in Calle Yarncroke. He's locked in for a little bit. Regardless, it's in my books, it's too much money to pay for William Nylander to make this team a Stanley Cup winner. It's been proven time and time again that, you know, 1, 2 guys, even 3 guys can't win you a Stanley Cup all by themselves in the NHL. In the NBA, yeah, it's a little more doable to have just a handful of guys win you a championship. When it comes to the NHL, it's about rolling 4 lines. It's about having competent, really good defense on the back end, physical defense that can move you. I'm talking playoffs right here. And competent goaltending, which, I mean, I've seen it time and time again with the Leafs. The offense dries up in the playoffs. That's what happens. Things get tighter. It's more physical. It's much harder to score. And time again, we've kind of seen the Leafs shrivel up in the playoffs. Nylander's been the most consistent stat-wise. If you go back and look at William Nylander's playoff stats, they aren't mind-blowing. Like, he's not just dominating, but he's doing very well. He's generally a point-per-game player in the playoffs, and he likes to spread the love. He's not like Marner, where Marner's numbers on paper look good. Like, they're like, oh, he's pretty good, but he'll just have big games in the playoffs. He'll just have one game where he gets 4 points in one game, and then he'll go the next 5 without doing anything. I would much prefer you to just get a point every game, spread the love, instead of having one huge performance and more than likely a blowout game. So that's kind of the outlier with Nylander. He's been kind of the most consistent guy in the playoffs, which is great. It's my massive concern, which is going to be with probably a lot of people, is that now that Nylander has his money, I'm almost, like, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm almost expecting his play to drop off. Is it going to drop off this season? I don't think so, but I think over the course of the summer and once his new contract kicks in, that pressure, that momentum, that motivator, that money motivator is now gone. Nylander's got his money, he's set for life, and now he doesn't have to go crazy every single game. I feel like we might start seeing that old Nylander come back where he kind of takes a week off, takes a few games off, goes invisible. I hope not. I really hope not, but that's just kind of the way it always is with these kind of contracts getting signed. Once a player, like, we'll see the same thing with Sam Reinhart, man. Watch out for that guy. That one's going to be tricky dicky now that William Nylander just signed his contract, so he's going to be asking for in and around $11 million. Will he get it? I highly doubt it, but it's a dangerous, dangerous contract, man. It's a dangerous contract, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I really like William Nylander. He's one of my favorite players on the team. He's having an amazing season. He has been progressively getting better every single year. But, you know, that kind of thing, it's not always linear. It's not like next year he's going to have an even better year and a better year. I feel like this is probably going to be his best season of his career. That's just how I feel about it. There's going to be no better motivator for William Nylander than to absolutely crush it this year. His teammates are more than likely trying to help him out, and we're more than likely going to see a very similar situation with Marner next year when his contract is up. He's probably going to have the best year of his fucking career next year because that's the way it works. And yeah, so now the question is, okay, so I know a lot of people are upset because Nylander is now making more money than David Pastrnak, which is absurd. It really is. It's absurd. David Pastrnak is a dominant player. He is a player that can, if he can run a line all by himself. I'm not saying that Willie can't. It's that David Pastrnak he's just better. He's just better. It's plain and simply, he's the better player. He scores a shitload of goals. He scores more goals than Willie can. And I just think he's an all-around better player. So a lot of people are upset about that. And, honestly, I understand it. It's the Toronto tax. You got to pay more to keep players here in Toronto. The media sucks. I don't blame them. It's just a grind on your mentality to play in Toronto. I don't care what player says it doesn't bother them. It has to. It's so relentless in Toronto. Everything is a story. You can't get away with anything. But, so there's the Toronto tax. There's just a lot, man. There's just playing in Toronto, I feel like we have to pay the Toronto tax. So with that, you have to pay that. And, the cap is going up. That's known now, even though it's bit Toronto in the ass. Last time they predicted the cap going up, but I guess you can't really predict COVID happening. Regardless, I can't say that I'm really happy with the contract. It's just way too much money. Virtually almost a lot of the money that we are going to be getting in the future with all the cap money going up, and I know there's contracts coming off the books, and everyone thinks that John Tavares is just going to, I'm just going to sign for league minimum next contract. I highly doubt it. I mean, he's a professional athlete. He's going to get his money. He's not going to make $11 million, but he's not going to make league minimum either. I still think he's going to be probably whatever Steven Stamkos signs for. I feel like that's probably what John Tavares is going to be looking for. Yeah, man, it's disappointing that no one in Toronto has really taken that hometown discount. Maybe Morgan Riley. I feel like has lived up to that contract so far. It's very, very early, but so far so good. He's having an excellent year this season, and that's kind of what I would expect out of Morgan Riley. Is he's a different animal, right? Like when he signs his contract, I don't think that guy's going to stop until the NHL tells him to stop. Like, okay, you have to retire, your body is falling apart. With Nylander, it's just, I've watched him play his whole career, and I've seen him turn it off, I've seen him turn it on, so I'm more of the mind that Nylander is going to not maybe live up to that $11.5 million per season. We'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see. And then now there's the Marner contract that'll be coming up. How much is he going to want? Some people are kind of predicting now that Nylander is signed long-term, that they're kind of going to play with the idea of what it might look like not having Marner on the team, not re-signing him. But again, like, what does that trade look like? Like, trading away Marner, you're not winning that trade. You're going to send him off somewhere else and watch him be amazing. So, I mean, they say they want to keep all the stars here. It's been a bad, terrible strategy so far. Hasn't worked whatsoever. We'll see what happens this year. I mean, it just doesn't. Offense doesn't win Stanley Cups. Not very often. It's very often defense and solid goaltending that'll get you a championship. So Leafs doubling down on offense scares me a little bit. And again, I just haven't seen dominant performances out of the Big Four, the Big Five in the playoffs yet. I've seen good performances, but I don't expect them to do what Leon Draisaitl and McDavid did, like putting up 36 points in 4 games or whatever, but they need to be well over a point a game. Like, the money that you're getting, the talent that you have, now the pressure's on, baby. Pressure's on. Like, you have to perform in the playoffs, and I hope they know what they're signing themselves up to, because, like, Nylander, his last contract, that was a sweetheart deal. That ended up being a sweetheart deal that we didn't know was going to be all that good, but it ended up being awesome. So now he's making big boy money, so now the heat is going to be on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Nylander, if he even gets, like, let's say in 7 games he gets 6 points. That's going to piss people off, man. And be like, $11.5 million? No, that's not acceptable anymore. No, you have to be fucking really good. So the heat is on with William Nylander. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if he is going to be the whipping boy or something if this year's playoffs don't go very well. Generally, it's always on Marner. Maybe a little bit on John Tavares too. Less so on Matthews. A little bit more lately, but we'll see, man. I could see William Nylander, now that kind of all the the microscopes are on him right now with a big money contract. We'll see how that goes with him, but the future kind of makes me a little bit nervous. Like, there's a lot of contracts, like I said, coming off of the books. Is TJ Brody going to make the same money? Is he gone? Like, Connor Timmins apparently is gone, but I really, really like that player. Bertuzzi and Domi, their contracts are coming up. So, again, that doesn't encourage me. It just sounds like, okay, we're going to lose pretty much all of that. And some people are kind of speculating that, like, the mid-tier contracts, like your $5 to $7 million player, they're going to be suffering a lot because the superstar players are taking too much of the salary. And the mid-tier guys are the ones that generally make or break your team. So Nylander's contract, that kind of made the Toronto Maple Leafs way better because it was a good contract and a player that was playing above his contract. That was great. But more often than not, those $5 to $7 million contracts, if that player doesn't live up to that contract, it is such an anchor on your team. I mean, not as much as the Jonathan Huberdeau one. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but yeah, I don't think the Leafs are going to have a lot of that kind of thing going on next season. They're going to have to try and find a lot of really cheap, good players, which Dubas was really good at. Treliving, not bad, honestly. I mean, with his depth players, he's been good, but with the players that he spent money on this season, he's been kind of fucking terrible. Like, Klingberg still baffles my mind. That, like, we all knew that was going to be terrible. It was actually worse than expected, so no idea what they were thinking on that one. That was one of the most baffling signings I have ever seen the Leafs do. Just fucking dumb. And yeah, they're paying the price for it. Thankfully, I mean, not thankfully, but they got bailed out with him having to go on long-term injured reserve. So yeah, there's that. But they've done well with guys like Benoit. They did good with Gregor. Like, if they can find more of those guys, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a little bit tougher, right? Because now the salary cap's going up. Other teams are going to have a little bit more money to play with, even though we GMs are very bad with that money. They're terrible. They just love to spend every single fucking penny of it, expecting that, oh, nothing will happen in 82 games. Not a single injury. Nothing will go wrong. Let's just spend every penny. And then when something goes wrong, they go, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then they complain about the salary cap. But anyway, it's too much money. Way too much money, and we'll see how the Leafs deal with it down the line. You're going to have to get very lucky, find some very lucky signings, and find some Michael Buntings, find some Zach Hymans out there, and yeah, so they're going to be busy finding those kind of players because you're not going to be able to fill out the team with a lot of premium depth or even good top six, middle six players to play with these superstars. You're going to be finding your Calle Yarncroaks, a guy that's maybe a top 9 middle six player, but he's going to be playing top 6. And he'll probably do fine because he's playing with Nylander, Matthews, and so on, so forth. But curious to hear what y'all think about the Nylander contract. I don't like it, but there's really not much you could do with it, man. There really wasn't. So, and it's all no move. Like, all these guys have no move contracts, so they're fucking locked in forever. You could do worse. Like, at least these guys are in their prime. They're playing great. Like, they're putting up a lot of points, which is fantastic. I just think long term, it's not the right idea. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that is what it is. So we'll stick with the Leaf talk right now, and one of the odd things that is going on right now is that Martin Jones is playing outstanding hockey right now as the Leafs' third-string goaltender. So is he actually the third-string goaltender, or is this guy the bona fide starter of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Well, his numbers would suggest, yeah, I'm the starter right now. He hasn't played in a lot of games, but goddamn, man, I was fine with the Martin Jones signing when they got him. It wasn't for a lot of money or anything, and I know that his statistics, career-wise, haven't been very good over the last handful of seasons, but the outlier for me was that the dude put up 27 wins last year, and that means a lot to me, especially when it comes to backup goaltenders, whatever. They need to come in and win. That's all I want you to do. I don't care if you play fucking on your head, if you're playing bad, just get the win, and that's what Martin Jones did. But now, not only is he getting wins, this dude is also putting up outstanding numbers. He had like a .930 save percentage. He was the second star of the week with like a .950 save percentage, a shutout against his old team. Like, goddamn, man, Martin Jones has kind of saved the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. Joseph Woll continues to be week to week. Every time they bring it up, they're like, another couple weeks. So everyone's speculating that Joseph Woll didn't suffer the injury that they said that he did. They said that was a high ankle sprain, but the people that have really looked at what is going on, it doesn't seem like they're being truthful about that injury. So I don't know. There's no actual update on Joseph Woll, which is extremely concerning to me because he's on my fantasy team and I need him in my net. But right now, thankfully, Martin Jones is here while Samsonov is trying to figure out how to play an NHL game again. And Joseph Woll continues to be a medical mystery. We have no idea what's going on with this guy. And, I hate when they do this. When it just keeps, it's just another week. And fuck, who knows when Joseph Woll is coming back. At this point, thankfully, Martin Jones is playing out of his mind. How long can he keep it up, though? Like, he was kind of the bona fide starter for Seattle. But again, his numbers weren't great. So are we going to see a drop-off in Martin Jones's numbers? It wouldn't be very shocking, but the Leafs are playing really good in front of him. He's playing really good. They seem to play well in front of him. They seem to want to win in front of him. Not like when they would play in front of like Peter Mrazek and Samsonov. There's like a tension. It's not the same team, right? So I'm feeling great with Martin Jones in the net right now. It's worked, man. That's been one of the good signings for Treliving as well. So I'm happy with Martin Jones. That game earlier this week with the whole, they did the California road trip. They actually crushed it. They got all 6 points on the road trip. I am very proud of this team for doing that. They took down the Kings, which that was great. That was the only one that I was like, okay, if they lose that one, okay. But the Kings are kind of struggling right now. We'll talk about them. But then they come and they take down Anaheim in a tight one. I mean, fucking Dostal having the game of his life. I was fucking watching that game. I'm like, are we serious right now? Like, this is something I'm so used to seeing. Like, the Leafs going up against a team that's maybe not that good, and they're going to throw in their backup goaltender, even though Dostal is maybe their starter right now. Throw this guy in, and he goalies us completely. It's like, oh my God. The dude almost broke like NHL records. He had like over 50 fucking saves. He was incredible. And people were like, who is this guy? I'm like, how do you not know fucking Dostal? Like, he's been around for a very long time. He's been next up for John Gibson for the Anaheim Ducks. They've just been waiting to get rid of John Gibson. But anyway, what a hell of a performance for Lucas Dostal. The future looks pretty good for that kid right there. I mean, it was only one game, but that was a pretty damn encouraging game. Hopefully he doesn't have another one of those in the tank against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was, those games are frustrating to watch, man. You're like, oh my God, please don't lose this game right now. And then the other part of the story was they had back-to-back games against San Jose, who was I think they were on a 9 or a 10 game losing streak at that point, and everybody was chalking it up. Oh, the Leafs are going to lose that game. San Jose is going to get out of that streak because that's what the Leafs have always been known for. If there's a guy on a schneid, like, oh, he hasn't scored in 8,000 games, you better fucking believe he's scoring tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, this guy is coming in. He's from Toronto. You better believe he's going to have a fantastic game. Oh, this team sucks. They're on a fucking huge losing streak. You better believe they're going to have the game of their lives against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But not this week, baby. The Leafs put away the San Jose Sharks. They fucked them up the other night. 7-1? I was actually proud a little bit because I'm so used to watching those games and the Leafs play down to their opponent. They're like, oh, the San Jose Sharks, we're just going to come in and play like a couple of fucking bunch of, I can't even, just play like a bunch of idiots. Like, they're an I hate when they play down to their opponents and it looked like they didn't. They're like, what I wanted from the Leafs is like, yo, you're playing a shitty team. Let's make it stat night. Let's fucking just build up the points. Let's just make our goal differential look amazing. Let's just destroy this team. Fuck it. And that's kind of what they did. And that made me very happy. And what used to be a dreadful California road trip has actually turned into something that's like not that bad. I wouldn't say vacation worthy, but because for me it's still a little bit tense because I don't like the Leafs losing to teams that are bad, and they didn't. So I'm very happy for the Toronto Maple Leafs this week. They're on a winning streak. They're doing good. Exactly what I expected them to do. They generally go through their kind of Christmas slump, and then they come out of that break just firing, and that's exactly what they're doing right now, and I'm expecting a very strong January out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I can't remember. I think I forget who they're playing Thursday, but they are playing Colorado on Saturday, so that's going to be a pretty damn big game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, even though Colorado, they're not like the powerhouse that they have been. They're definitely missing Landeskog. That has definitely been like a key missing ingredient for the Avs, but I'm excited for that game there on Saturday. This week's, with the lower end California teams, I honestly wasn't very excited for this past week's hockey, but it was a lot better than I expected. They actually won, and that made me happy. So that was cool. Speaking of making me happy, let's talk about the Calgary Flames, even though they are and aren't making me happy. So what's making me happy is that Oliver Shillington is nearing his NHL return. Maybe he's already back. I don't know, but that's fantastic. The guy has been gone for, personal reasons. He's been gone dealing with whatever. I have no idea. I haven't heard a single shred of information on what he has been dealing with. That's totally up to him. If he wants to keep that to himself, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just happy to see that Oliver Shillington is hopefully coming back to the lineup soon. I think he was playing some games with the Hitman or something, their minor league team, so that's good. He was always a solid defenseman that had some potential, but then this happened. So we'll see. My expectations are tempered because he hasn't played NHL games in so long, but great to hear that. Also with the Flames, there's the Chicago game that went down this week, just fucking inexcusable. That Chicago team was like below AHL level. Like, they had $13 million on the salary cap on the ice that night, and the Flames lost. Inexcusable. That was a embarrassing loss. Thankfully, they came back swinging last night with a win, but underratedly, the Flames have been wasting a couple of fantastic seasons. So, up first, it's Jacob Markstrom. This guy is having a excellent season, and it's getting wasted. If he had this season last year, Flames would have won a Stanley Cup. Oh my God. But of course, it's not lining up. This year, Markstrom's great, but the team in front of him, not so good. They can't score. And Markstrom, the last time I checked, he was actually leading all goaltenders with goals saved above expected, which is insane. So Markstrom's having a fantastic year. He's playing on his head. He's doing great. And the Flames in front of him aren't doing it. So is there a possibility that Markstrom gets traded? I mean, it's very unlikely because that contract is quite hefty and has still got some time on it, but maybe New Jersey gets desperate enough. Maybe there's something there with them, because at least Markstrom is doing his part. If he wants to get out, even though he has come out and said, that was last summer that he said that, minds could change, but he's playing really good. So at least they have that. They have that to play on. It's like, hey, you want a really good goaltender? It might be a little bit. Maybe they can get a third-party brokerage, and they can get a double retention on Markstrom to move him. But it's only because, I want Dustin Wolf to get up there. They could trade Vladar, but again, there's going to be next to zero value with Vladar. So if I was Boston, honest to God, I'd be hunting down Vladar, because they had him in the organization before. He was really good with them, and if I was Boston, I would maybe try and consider bringing in Vladar for cheap, get him into the organization. You could probably get him for a sixth, and just have him there. And then you can have Ullmark, you can maybe trade him away and just run fucking Swayman and Vladar. I think that would be an excellent tandem, a cheaper tandem. I don't know. That's just something that I've been thinking about because I remember when Calgary got Vladar. I remember Boston fans and even I think they're maybe the GM said that like that was a hard player to lose because they thought the world of Dan Vladar, but they had Jeremy Swayman, so yeah, they had to ditch him. So it's just something that I'm thinking about out there. Maybe there is a trade that can happen with that. But Markstrom's having an unbelievable season, and so is Blake Coleman, man. I'm pretty sure I've already mentioned this guy, but I have to mention him again because I have him on my fantasy team, and he's just been excellent. Scored 2 goals last night. He's just been awesome. And Sharon Govich, man, like that's a player that I called out. A lot of people didn't like that trade. They were like, "Oh, Sharon Govich, that's all you got for Toffoli." And I was pretty high on Sharon Govich when they brought him in. I was like, "Yo, this kid, he wasn't getting the opportunity in New Jersey. There's just too much top end talent there." And I thought he had a great opportunity with Calgary, and look at him go. He's been fucking excellent over the last month and a half, playing really good hockey. I think he scored 2 goals the other night, and he's playing a lot of minutes too. His minutes have skyrocketed. He's getting 20 minutes per game, and he's doing really good. So I'm happy with some things with the Flames, but again, they're in a horrible situation right now where they're very much so spinning wheels. They're not losing enough for them to fully just be like, all right, let's just blow it up. And they're winning enough to make them consider re-signing Lindholm, who still wants $9 million. No, don't do it. If you do it, I'm not a Flames fan no more. I'm done. That's it. I'm over it. If you sign Lindholm for 8 fucking year extension for $9 million, I will be so pissed. That will be a no-no. And now it's also going to hurt his trade value. If someone wants to pick this guy up, they know what he wants. So it's all right, are we going to, that's going to hurt his price. Some teams might be like, we only want him for a rental. We can't re-sign him. We don't want to re-sign him. So is Colorado still going to have that interest in a Lindholm? If he goes to Colorado, would he turn into a $9 million player playing with some of the players over there? I don't know, man. I don't know. So Flames have been kind of teasing that idea that the door is open again with the extension for Lindholm. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. And they're also talking about Noah Hannafin again and the possibility of him staying, which I'm more fine with him staying, but that's the piece that I think you can actually get something for. So again, I'm still on the train of sell with the Flames. I was listening to Puck Soup last night, and they brought up, because the 5-year anniversary of the St. Louis Blues being in last place and going off to win the Stanley Cup, the 5-year anniversary just passed, and they talked about what team this year is in the position to do that, and they said the Calgary Flames, because they have great goaltending, they have some young up-and-coming players, they got a good defensive core on paper, it's done pretty okay, so they teased that they don't think they'll win it, but they're like, that's the team that is the most St. Louis Blues 2019 looking. So that also upsets me. I hope no one from the Flames organization heard that and they may consider re-signing all these guys for big mistakes. And we'll see, man. We'll see. So the Flames continue to just be very, very up and down. So don't you ever lose to Chicago. I don't know what it is with the Flames in Chicago, man. Chicago has their number. They whooped their ass all last year too, which is just what the fuck is going on? So yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks really annoying me right now, and I guess now that I brought them up, let's talk about those Chicago Blackhawks. So, not good news for them. Their superstar, you might have heard of him, Connor Bedard, this new little kid that whatever, you might have heard of him. Well, he broke his jaw this week, and that sucks. He had surgery, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's not good for Chicago. They're pretty much fucked unless they play Calgary. If they just play Calgary every night, Chicago would never lose a game. But that's not how it goes. So outside of them beating Calgary, I don't think they're going to be winning very many games. They really, Nick Foligno is probably, after Kurashev, their best offensive option, so not ideal. Their defense is bad, and Mrazek is doing the best that he can. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough go here for Chicago fans. It's I wouldn't even bother watching the games at this point unless you're a big old Kurashev fan, which I think he's a pretty damn good little player right there. But yeah, the cupboards are pretty empty there right now in Chicago. But Bedard also got selected for the All-Star game, and he's the youngest player in NHL history to get selected, so that's really cool, but I don't think he's going to be playing in it, or he might be participating. I have no idea with a broken jaw how that would work, because, I mean, there wouldn't be much contact. We'll see. I don't know if Connor Bedard is going to make it there, and on that topic of the 32 All-Stars getting selected, I'm of the mind that, like, I like the idea of every team getting represented, but you got to just start doing the right thing for the NHL to grow and just put the best that you fucking have. Like, I know it's a great story to see, who is the guy? Boone Jenner or something from Columbus? Like, no offense, you're just not an all-star. There's no all-stars on Calgary this year. I'm sorry, there just isn't. Like, there's a lot of teams that are struggling to put out an all-star, and then there's teams like the Leafs, there's teams like Edmonton, Pittsburgh, like, that have multiple superstars, high-end names that it would just be better for them to put those names in there. Like, is it a big deal? Like, I don't even fucking watch the thing anyway. It's damn near unwatchable. I have slight interest in it this year just because it is in Toronto, so I'm hoping that they'll actually try, but it's not really it's more or less the players don't want to be there, and it's very obvious on TV that no one wants to be there, and yeah, it's generally just kind of like really boring and not that interesting. So we'll see what they can do this year with the whole $1 million on the line. It could do something for the whole thing, but we'll see. In terms of we'll talk more about the selections after the whole internet thing, because NHL selected their 32, and then they're going to leave the rest up for the fans to vote for. I imagine William Nylander's going to get in there. The Leaf fans are more than likely going to be voting quite a bit. So, yeah, the All-Star stuff is going on. And speaking of All-Stars, let's talk about that All-Star team of the Winnipeg Jets out there in the Western Middle Canada area. But, oh my goodness, the Jets are unbelievable this year. And goddamn right, man. Like, I was pretty high on these Winnipeg Jets, especially that Dubois trade that they did. I thought that was a massive win for the Winnipeg Jets. And, man, like, what a turnaround for the Jets. Coming into this year, so many question marks. A lot of people were like, oh, the Winnipeg Jets are borderline maybe going to be a bottom-feeding team. And look at them now. Top of the NHL. They have a point streak going over 12 games now. They continue to get points in every single game. They have a ridiculous, I think it's up to 25 straight games now of not letting in more than 3 goals or something like that. And the star of the Winnipeg Jets is Connor Hellebuyck. This guy has been sensational. Got a shutout the other night. Fantastic game for him. And he even started out really shaky. I drafted Connor Hellebuyck this year because he's one of the most consistent goaltenders. He is always good, and even on bad years, he's good. So I went with Connor Hellebuyck, and he started out really bad, man. Like, it was really concerning how Connor Hellebuck's season began. He was sub 900 save percentage, and he has absolutely turned it around. 30 games played, 21 wins, 6 losses, 3 losses in overtime, a 2.20 goals against average, and a 923 save percentage with 2 shutouts. This guy is absolutely killing it this year. Probably the leader in the Vezina right now, I would say. Dude's been absolutely murdering it. And the backup goaltender, Laurent Brossoit, he is also doing very well. 920 save percentage. He's got 6 wins in 10 appearances. Not bad. And then the other guys. Mark Scheifele, you know. What with a lot of question marks around this guy's future. And he had kind of, you know, it was a good but also odd season last season. I hate doing that. It was an odd season for Mark Scheifele last year where he scored 40, which was a career high. It was excellent, but then he only got like 25 assists and 60 some odd points, which was low for him. He has always been a point-a-game player, and he is back to that this season. 40 games, 41 points, 14 goals, 27 assists. Back to Mark Scheifele numbers. it kind of drops off a bit in points there, but they're also playing without Kyle Connor, their best player, and they're absolutely dominating right now. So, I mean, goddamn, losing Kyle Connor, who had 17 goals in 26 games, and they're still winning. So that's extremely impressive. Cole Perfetti has taken a step forward this year. Josh Morrissey is proving to everybody that last year was not a fluke. Nikolai Ehlers is bouncing back in a pretty damn good way. 14 goals, 18 assists, 32 points in 40 games. Nothing wrong with that. And some of their little pickups over the last season or so have been pretty good. Nino Niederreiter, a good addition. Namis Stankanov, a good addition. They brought back Appleton. I'm pretty sure it was Appleton they brought back. But, man, this is just a very well-constructed team, and I feel like what kicked it off was the Dubois trade, because what I love the most about that trade was that they were getting multiple roster players back, and 2 of them are borderline top 6 players. 1 or 2 of them are already better than fucking Dubois this year. Like, Gabriel Velarde has, in 22 games, 18 points, 9 goals, 9 assists. Excellent. The other guy that they brought in, I just got to find some of their names. Kupari, that one's a little bit disappointing so far. 15 games, only the 1 point. There's a lot of talent and upside there. They're just waiting for it to kind of break out. And then Alex Iafallo, a good middle 6 forward, 17 points in 40 games. It's all about that depth, baby. And the Winnipeg Jets, they're just able to roll the lines out. I mean, goddamn, now that Velarde is back and he's healthy again, that a really good addition, and I think it was just an all-around great move. They get rid of that kind of dark cloud of Pierre Dubois or whatever the fuck, and it's been great for them, man. They moved on from Blake Wheeler. They re-signed Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck, and they have been fantastic. So, yeah, I don't think a lot of people saw this coming out of the Winnipeg Jets. They're currently 27-9-4, first place in the Central. They're 8th in goals for per game at 3.43. First in the NHL in goals against at 2.33. Power play could use some work, only running at 18%. And their penalty kill can use some work as well. So this team has room to improve and get even better. So that's scary. That's scary right there. They're first in the NHL. And they can still get a little bit better right there. If their penalty kill, I don't know. That's kind of a really strange number with Connor Hellebuck playing so well, but the penalty kill isn't good. So usually that kind of falls on the goaltender. So I don't know. I have to see what's going on with their penalty kill. But fuck, man, the Jets are soaring right now. They're doing very, very well. Good for them. Actually, hold on. Since we talked about Pierre-Luc Dubois, let's take a look at this guy. Has not been doing good whatsoever. This season, he's only got 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points, and he's played in all the games for Los Angeles. So not a great start for him over there, and the Kings have been slumping. They're on like a 5-game losing streak right now. And, if I was a Kings fan, I'd be a little bit nervous because the Edmonton Oilers, bro, are on a fucking mission. These guys cannot be stopped. I think they're up to like 16 wins in their last 19 games or something outrageous like that. And they are fucking rolling, man. McDavid is McDavid again. Zach Hyman might be the best player on the team. I mean, Zach Hyman is incredible, man. I am so happy for this guy. Like, I'm super sad that we didn't get to keep him, but I'm happy that he's gone off and he's done what he's done. McDavid's going crazy. He's got 55 points now in 35 games. He's going to be catching up to McKinnon and Kucherov for the points leader. Leon's catching up. He's getting up there. Zach Hyman's been excellent all year long. Evan Bouchard's getting it done. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is getting it done. Like, Jesus, man. And, of course, the goaltending has improved. It's not excellent, but at least Stuart Skinner is now above a 900 save percentage at 901, and he's getting the wins right now. So yeah, and the scary thing is, I don't even think the Edmonton Oilers are even in a playoff spot as of yet. Let's take a look at the standings. Let's see if these guys are even in a playoff spot right now. And that just goes to show you so they just cracked into the second wild card spot. So that goes to show, man, how big of a hole that they dug themselves in at the beginning of the year and how much you have to win to get yourselves out of it. That's why it is so important to win those games at the beginning of the year. Not every team can do what Edmonton is doing and win 19 of 16 games or whatever. That is not something that is normal. And good for Edmonton, man. They're just climbing. They're doing amazing right now. And maybe next week we'll be talking about them cracking into the tops of the Pacific Division, right? That's where they're at, which is currently being led by Vancouver, which is very strange still. Edmonton's at 43 points. LA is at 47. So again, if I was Los Angeles, they've lost 5 in a row. Edmonton is surging. They're on like a 7 or 8 game winning streak right now. I'm not saying that LA is in danger of necessarily missing the playoffs, but if they do continue playing like this, then yeah, absolutely. And Phoenix Copley is down. He is injured for the Los Angeles Kings. So yeah, things right now aren't going excellent. I can only imagine that the knife is twisting a little bit watching Winnipeg being so successful with their players over there. So pretty interesting. Also with the Los Angeles Kings, David Riddick is going to be taking over for the backup goaltending job. He's been okay, but Big Save Dave hasn't really been Big Save Dave for quite a while. Maybe not the goaltender you want back there. Is there something they can do with a trade to bring in another goaltender? I think they'll be fine for now, but if they continue slumping, something's going to have to happen. And, we'll see what's going on with the Los Angeles Kings. But what is going on with the San Jose Sharks is that they're losing a lot of fucking games right now. Oh my goodness. Not only did they get absolutely blasted by the Leafs, their losing streak is now over 10 games, 10 regulation losses in a row. This is the second 10-plus game losing streak of the season. And on top of that, Benning is out for the rest of the season. He had season-ending hip surgery. So, yeah, just piling on the love for the San Jose Sharks. I mean, did you? I don't think anyone expected them to have a good season. They're doing what they need to do, man. Hopefully they can get Celebrini, get someone really good in the draft this year, and we'll see them build back up really slowly. They still have they have a long way to go, man. They have a long way to go. But a team that doesn't have as long of a way to go is the Seattle Kraken, who are one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now, probably beside the Edmonton Oilers. They're on a 7-game winning streak out of nowhere. I feel like they did this last year to me, where they just went on this huge winning streak that really nobody was talking about. And goddamn, man, Seattle has found themselves right behind the Edmonton Oilers in the standings. So they're also got themselves back into the hunt. And a big reason for this is Joey freaking Decord, man. This guy has been playing excellent. Let's just pull up his stats. And the big reason is that Philip Grubauer goes down. So that is your key to success, Seattle Kraken. Stop playing Philip Grubauer. He's trash. He's got an .884 save percentage in 17 games. Not good. Joey Decord, though, in 25 games, he has a 2.28 goals against average and a .923 save percentage. So this guy is rejuvenated the Seattle Kraken, and they are back in the hunt. So that is excellent. He is playing very, very well. I don't think anybody saw this coming. And overall, I mean, the team kind of looks like the Calgary Flames. Like, they have, that is a lot of minuses on their team, and nobody is really a point a game or anything. Vince Dunn is having another excellent season. 40 games played, 34 points as a defenseman. Very, very impressive right there. And then the next leading scorer is Oliver Bjorkstrand, 30 points in 40 games. So they're not scoring. They're still struggling to score. That is definitely a big problem for the Seattle Kraken. But their defense and keeping the puck out of the net for them has been really good. They're one of the better teams. If I just lost all their statistics because, that's how the internet works. So we'll pull up their stats again, but they are currently 10th in the league with their goals against per game. Their penalty kill is 13th. It's just they got to find some goal scoring on this team. Matty Beniers really got to get going in the back half of this season. He's really struggling, but he's been playing better. But yeah, man, there's some really big outlying minuses on this team, like Jared McCann, Matty Beniers. They're both -12s, -8s, -9s. Like, yeah, there's some big minuses here. Their top lines are definitely, it looks like they're getting caved in a little bit by the bigger competition. But at least Joey Daccord right now is giving them a chance. How long can Joey Daccord keep it up and keep the Seattle Kraken in the running? I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I like the Kraken or not. It's just because my hatred for Philip Grubauer is so very strong, and he plays for them. So that makes liking them a little bit difficult. But I don't know. I just think Seattle's pretty key. But there you go. They're on a fucking huge winning streak, and we'll see how much longer they can continue winning. So speaking of winning, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to pass Patrick Roy on the total wins list, which is amazing, and something that it's going to be rough. It's going to be, I won't say rough, but it's going to be, we may not see goaltenders hit over 500 wins in a while, man. I don't know if we're going to see, like, the goalies that are up for contention is like Vasilevsky, Connor Hellebuck, those kind of goalies. And there are some absolutely untouchable goalie records. Like, I think it's Glenn Hall. He started in like over 500 consecutive games. That's just that NHL is over. The way that goaltending works now we're on like a 3 goalie tandem system. So a goaltender starting in 500 straight games, you're never going to see that happen again. And Martin Brodeur's win record, I don't think anyone's ever going to touch that. Like, it's just untouchable. Marty Brodeur, the most winningest goaltender of all time, and he slaughtered that list. He is so far up there. But Marc-Andre Fleury, man, what an excellent career. And people are going to look back on his career as being the first overall pick in that insane 2003 draft. And I think, honestly, he lived up to it. Was he the best goaltender all the time? No, but he's got 3 Stanley Cups. He's always winning. He gets a lot of wins, lots of shutouts. And he is one of the most beloved NHL players probably of all time, at least of my generation. I love Marc-Andre Fleury, and congratulations to him passing Patrick Roy, which is incredible. Like, I would imagine that Patrick Roy was one of his heroes growing up, French-Canadian goaltender, so that's got to be a really big deal for Marc-Andre Fleury. Congratulations. Speaking of a big deal, Sidney Crosby, a former teammate of Marc-Andre Fleury for a very long time, has passed Joe Thornton at 12th all-time on the points leader list. Sidney Crosby getting close to top 10 of all time. He could possibly make it. I think Phil Esposito is his next person to pass, which he's going to pass him at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this season or not. That would be like 50 more points, I think. But Sidney Crosby's having another excellent season, so I wouldn't be shocked if he did. But Sidney Crosby, man, like, that conversation comes up. Is he on that Mount Rushmore? I can't really answer that because the guys that are generally on the Mount Rushmore, I didn't get to watch play. I didn't get to watch Crosby, Lemieux, Bobby Orr. I didn't get to watch those guys, Guy Lafleur. So my opinion would be completely different. Like, I can't sit here and say that I would have Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux. Like, I can say that, but like, I can't really justify it in any other way other than the statistics that are there in the history. But I didn't get to watch that guy. But I think Sidney Crosby, man, you give that guy another 4 or 5 years in the NHL, and 3 of those years he's probably still a top elite player, and then after that it's like maybe he's like a 60-point guy in 80 games with the last couple of years of his career, still good, but obviously he's not Crosby no more. But right now he's still Crosby. He's climbing up that top 10 list. So is Crosby good enough, had a good enough career as of now to make it onto a Rushmore? Is he a top 10 player of all time? I don't know. That's definitely a conversation for another day, but as of right now, Sidney Crosby passing Joe Thornton on that all-time points list. Very impressive. Speaking of impressive, let me talk about the PWHL for a minute. The Women's Hockey League has been crushing it right now, and this is awesome. I have to watch a game. I have not gotten my eyes on a game yet, but I hear nothing but good things. Fast, fucking highly skilled hockey, and they're breaking attendance records, man, like back to back. They break a record with 8,000 people, over 8,000, almost 9,000 people at their first game, and then they slaughter that record. They had like almost 14,000 people at the Minnesota game. So what an excellent start for the PWHL. I don't think they could have really asked for a better start. Maybe it would have been better if they had some logos and names for the teams, but as of right now, that doesn't seem to be a major issue, which, okay, that's fine, but yeah, man, I mean, a great start for the PWHL. That is very good to hear. I would have been sad if it was like, oh, they played this game, they had this great game, but it was like a half-empty building. But that has not been the case. They've done very well for themselves so far. I gotta watch a game. Maybe if there's a game on tonight, I'll pop it on because there's no Leaf game for me tonight. So maybe I'll watch some PWHL and see what all the hubbub is about. I actually watched a couple videos of some of the women on the teams. They're just like doing a smelling salts challenge. And a lot of them just seem like pretty fun personalities. Like, they already just seem like a lot, like, more fun naturally than the men players are, just in those kind of situations. A lot of NHL hockey players are just very, like, plain toast, like, kind of very, very bland, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, let me know. Have you watched any of the PWHL games, and what's your favorite team so far? I haven't picked yet, but I think naturally I would have to pick the Toronto team. But there's some pretty compelling players on Boston, but I can't. There's no way I could root for a Boston team. I'm sorry. But yeah, man, PWHL doing really well for themselves. Someone who isn't doing so well for themselves, sadly, is Christian Dvorak in Montreal. He is going to be having season-ending surgery, which is never a good thing to announce. So since we're talking about bad stuff, let's just kind of rip all the bad stuff out of the way here. Arizona. Jason Zucker suspended 3 games for boarding Nick Cousins, and that brought out a whole fucking bag of worms on Nick Cousins. He's getting called out by Bieksa on the panel for being a chicken shit, basically. And it's like a known thing around the NHL with this guy. He goes around starting shit with players, and then when it's time to fight, he fucking falls to his knees and begs for his life. Please, no, don't hit me in the face. And yeah, he's become one of the most hated players in the NHL, but absolutely beloved by whatever team that he's playing for. And I get it, man. Like, I think all 31 GMs would say, yeah, I'd love to have that guy on my team, or every coach in the NHL would say, I'd love to have that guy on my team. But yeah, getting called out by Bieksa on the panel on national TV, that's going to definitely get him some hate. They were talking about it a lot on Spit and Chicklets. Fucking Bissonnette tried to call him live on the podcast to basically chirp him and talk shit to him, but he didn't answer the bell, which is very familiar. So yeah, that happened, and Zucker getting a 3-game suspension, basically teaching him a lesson a little bit. I think he's fine with taking it for now. And then New York, we got Philip Hedl. His slow recovery from a concussion has started to get some people a little bit concerned. Now, I didn't even know that this situation was happening. It's kind of new to me. So that's something I'll keep my eye on and look a little bit more into. But that is something that is going on right now. I hope everything's okay, and I hope that they're doing the right thing by taking things slow and not rushing him into it. He's a good little player, man. I love that line, the kid line in New York with Kakko, Hedl, and Lafreniere. That was a really fun line, and Hedl arguably was playing the best on that kid line. So hopefully that he can come back. That's you don't want to see something like that. We just saw it recently. A young player, Nolan Patrick, having his NHL career kind of abruptly ended, and a very highly touted, skilled player. You just don't want to see guys like that go down, and we didn't get to see what they're made of really yet. So hopefully Hedl is doing okay and he gets back soon. Speaking of doing okay, the NHL is going to be starting a new mental health assistance program, which is excellent. I mean, we're seeing it more often than not now, players going into assistance programs for mental health reasons, not just drugs and alcohol. That's where everyone goes first when a player says, hey, I'm going into this program. They're like, oh, well, an alcoholic. Oh, he must be addicted to drugs or whatever. It's like, no, not everybody. Some people are dealing with serious mental disabilities. And one of those guys was, in fact, Connor Ingram. And he credits therapy with changing his life. And look at him go now. He's one of the best goaltenders in the league this season. Absolutely becoming a star before our eyes, and he thanks therapy for that. He was going through, I think it was OCD is what he was dealing with, went and addressed that problem, and it looks like he fixed it, which is awesome, man. Like, I mean, I'm very happy when people come out and they're vocal about this stuff, and that's part of the healing process. You got to talk about the things that you're struggling with, even though it's really hard, and all that stuff. But it doesn't happen overnight either. Like Connor Ingram, this was, I think he said 3 years ago where he started therapy, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that he has probably worked very, very hard at, clearly, and it's really good to see that the results are coming out. So good to hear, the NHL are doing something, adding in some programs to help out the players, because I imagine now more than ever with the media, social media, and all that crap, that a mental toll is probably harder on people than it ever has been. So many cameras on you all the time. Whatever you say is picked apart and all that stuff. So good to see that the NHL are trying to take care of the players a little bit with their mental health. So that's encouraging. That's nice to see. And speaking of nice to see, Max Pacioretty has made his season debut finally with the Washington Capitals, and so far so good. He's not hurt. He didn't re-injure himself immediately upon return, which is really good. He's got one assist in 3 games, but they're taking him slow. It's not like he's getting thrust right into top line minutes and everything. He's only played 12 minutes in the first game, 14, 13. So, they're easing him into it, but it's good, man. Like, Pacioretty's always been a really good player, and he's just recently had he's always kind of had bad injury luck, but more so recently than often, or whatever. But he's come back. He's playing. The Capitals need some goal scoring, even though Ovechkin has kind of starting to get things rolling here a little bit. And the Capitals, not so much. They're starting to fall off, but as expected, because all year long now, they're winning games, but no one can figure out why. It's like, what the fuck is going on with the Capitals? But hey, Pacioretty's back, and that is pretty cool. Speaking of pretty cool, the United States have won gold at the World Juniors, winning 6-2 over Sweden. So congratulations to the United States. I think it is going to be the first, or not the first of, not their first gold medal ever, but it's going to be the first of, I imagine, many incoming for the United States. Their program is amazing. They got all these crazy good young players coming up. And I know the discussion with this tournament a little bit is the fact that, Team Canada wasn't Team Canada. They didn't have all their best players. They didn't have Connor Bedard. And yeah, I mean, sure, that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. But that doesn't mean you take away the win from the United States. They still won. They won in the finals. They beat Sweden, a good team right there. But yeah, if Canada had Connor Bedard on it, they probably would have been better. Would they have won? I wouldn't say yes necessarily, because Connor Bedard is one player, and the United States just had a powerhouse team, like top to bottom. And so congratulations to the United States. One of the bigger stories coming out of that is a player that was on Team United States, and that is Cutter Gauthier, who has been traded away from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Anaheim Ducks. A shocking trade that kind of comes out of absolutely nowhere, but some people did kind of see this one coming a little bit before it happened. So there was a rumor going around that a United States junior player had said that the team that he was drafted by, he wasn't going to sign with. So people were speculating who this was. Apparently, it was Cutter Gauthier. He doesn't want to play for the Philadelphia Flyers. His reasons are his own. That's up to him. I mean, I almost want to praise him for coming out and saying, like, hey, it's just not going to work out here. I don't want to play here, so, let's do something about that. And, again, this goes back to Pierre-Luc Dubois, like, players, expressing where they would like to go, and if they don't want to play here, then they probably shouldn't. Like, maybe Cutter Gauthier is just looking out for his career. It's like, I'm not going to like playing for the Flyers. It might fuck my career up, so let's try and get me somewhere else. And the Flyers do that. They make the trade. They acquire Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick in 2025. So this is a very interesting deal. Way too early to tell who wins this. Cutter Gauthier hasn't even made his NHL debut yet, but he's a very highly touted prospect. I think it was a 5th or 6th overall pick in 2022. and Jamie Drysdale, a 5th or 6th overall pick in 2020, I think it was. Regardless, Jamie Drysdale has played in the NHL. He's played some NHL games. Does have a little bit of an injury history that was looked into by the Flyers. They said that he's 100% good to go. So, I mean, it's kind of a hockey trade here. I kind of like this deal for both sides. Like, the Flyers could use some help on the back end. They have a decent crop of forwards. I mean, it would have been great to keep Cutter Gauthier. I imagine they would have preferred to keep him. But if word got out around the league that this kid didn't want to play, they were nervous that they were going to start getting these lowball offers for a player that doesn't deserve lowball offers. That's just how it goes. When the Sharks smell blood, they come running, and they're going to just try and pick this guy off from the Flyers for dirt cheap. But I think getting Jamie Drysdale back, a top-end defenseman, now he's not a top 2, not a top 4 yet, but he could develop into that. And I think him going over there and developing with John Tortorella's team and the way that they play structured defense, it could be really good for Jamie Drysdale. So watch out for this kid. He might not put up a fuckload of points, but he could develop into an excellent top 4, maybe a top 2 defenseman. That's maybe pushing it, and a second-round pick to boot. So not bad work for the Philadelphia Flyers considering the situation. And now the Ducks. So the Ducks, they have always had a plethora of young up-and-coming defensemen, so they were in the market to move one of these young defensemen. They have Zellweger coming up. They have Michukov who's playing, so it made sense for them to, we can move one of these and bring in a highly touted fucking point-getting guy. So that is something they're looking for, someone to add into that top 6 with McTavish on the... Oh, buddy, man, this could be... Man, imagine a line of, like, McTavish, Zegras, and Cutter Gauthier. Like, oh my god, the talent. So I like this move a lot for the Ducks. It makes a ton of sense for them. It's a good deal, man. I think, like, if I had to pick a winner right now, I'd say the Ducks, I guess, just because I think in the long run, obviously, I think Gauthier is going to put up a lot more points than Drysdale will in his career. But again, Cutter Gauthier, great name, hasn't made his NHL debut yet. Could he make it now with the Ducks after a really good... He had a great showing in the World Juniors. So who knows? Maybe Cutter Gauthier makes an appearance this season with the Ducks. They're down Leo Carlson as well. That's another guy. Like, oh my god, Cutter Gauthier with Leo Carlson and like a Troy Terry on the... Oh my god, man. Like, yeah, man, I would be very excited as a Ducks fan with this trade. I mean, they're probably not amped about losing Jamie Drysdale, but with these other young defensemen up and coming, I think it's a pill that they're willing to swallow. So I like this deal quite a bit. It's a pretty fun little deal. It's always disappointing. I know Flyers fans are probably a little hurt in the pride. It's never nice hearing a player say they don't want to play for you. That's never cool, but hey, at least you got something for it, and I don't think Jamie Drysdale he's a lot more than just something. I think he's going to be a good addition for the Flyers. So well done right there. Cool trade. Hopefully we start seeing a few more trades coming around soon. But yeah, I think that's everything that I'm going to be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much for listening to the GX HockeyCast, the GX Plus Cast. This is the first episode of Season 3 of the HockeyCast, so fuck yeah. And again, I'm crushing it again in January, so thank you everybody so much for downloading. You want to review the podcast, that would help me out a lot. Drop a comment. I upload all of these episodes to YouTube on the Gamer GX Videos YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Great place to drop a comment, questions. I would love to answer any questions related to video games, hockey, or wrestling. Just drop a comment. I'd love to carve out a little time on the podcast, answer some questions, and have a good time with that. And you can follow along on Twitter. Again, the link is in the description. And in terms of what we're going to be doing this week with the GX Plus Cast, planning on Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the GamerCast and the WrestleCast. Going to be doing the recap as always. So there you go, everybody. Again, thank you as always for listening, and we will be back again with more GX Plus Cast.